Ray Dalio. I'm sure you all know who he is. He's the founder and the manager of the largest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater. Dalio is one of the most followed investors in modern times, and in this video we're going to reveal his portfolio at Bridgewater. I want to break each investment down piece by piece, tell you a bit about them, and then see how his portfolio balances out. Let's get straight into it. So the first investment is what's known as an ETF. An ETF is just a group of different stocks bunched together. In this case, it's the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is an index of 500 very large USA companies. These stocks are a good indicator of the entire USA market as a whole. So straight away, Dalio is exposing his portfolio to companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, those huge American companies. And this is the largest investment of Dalio's portfolio, making up 11.9% of it. He owns $1.38 billion of the S&P 500, straight away allowing for diversification and the lowering of risk. Now again, his second largest position is an ETF, but this is completely different. The Vanguard Emerging Markets ETF, instead of holding groups of large USA companies, they own companies throughout emerging markets in China, Brazil, Taiwan, and South Africa. The ETF's 10 largest holdings from 1 to 10 are the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, Tencent, Alibaba, Yeltown, Naspers, Ping Insurance, Reliance Industries, JD.com, China Construction Bank, and last is NIO, the electric car company. This ETF makes up 5.7% of Dalio's portfolio over at Bridgewater, a total value of $659 million. What you'll notice right from the start, Dalio is diversifying his portfolio across the globe. His biggest investments are in the USA, but second is those high growth emerging markets around the world. Anyone who has been a Dalio follower for a while will not be surprised by this investment. Dalio likes gold. One of his famous quotes is, "If you don't own gold, you know neither history nor economics." And he's put his money where his mouth is. The SPDR Gold Trust makes up his third largest investment at 4.6% of his portfolio. His total investment is $532 million of Bridgewater's assets. For any of you guys out there looking to own the SPDR Gold Trust, the ticker symbol is GLD. The expense ratio is fine at 0.4% a year. Now we start getting into the individual stocks that Dalio has picked. His biggest individual stock is Walmart, ticker symbol WMT on the New York Stock Exchange. This makes up 3.8% of his portfolio, valued at $443.8 million. Walmart, as we all know, is a chain of discount department stores scattered throughout mainly America, but also Canada, Mexico, and a couple of other countries. Altogether, they have 11,443 stores, bringing in $548 billion of total revenue a year, making them the largest company in the world based on that figure. This stock exposes the portfolio nicely to a steady part of the market, which is retail. Retail, that's a sector that's been going on since humans started trading, and it will continue to do so in the future. The stock currently sells for $132 a share, generating yearly earnings of $4.75. Their dividend, quite nice, is $2.20 per share, giving them a dividend annual yield of 1.65%. Next is Dalio's second largest stock position, that's Procter & Gamble. P&G makes up 3.2% of the portfolio with a value of $375 million. P&G, it's the consumer goods company. They sell products in the categories of beauty, healthcare, grooming, home care, and baby, feminine, and family care. Pretty well known company, I'm sure you guys have heard of them, but you don't want to just know of the company. The question is, are you an owner of them? Dalio is. The stock sells for $126 a share. These guys pay a dividend with a 2.48% yield with a PE ratio of 23.9. The next stock breaks outside of the USA and starts looking at China. Alibaba accounts for 3.2% of Dalio's portfolio, valued around $372 million. It can be bought on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol BABA. BABA, it's one of those companies that has their hands in a range of businesses. Predominantly, they're an e-commerce company, kind of similar to Amazon. They have Tmall and Taobao, which operates throughout China. Then they have Alibaba.com and AliExpress, which operates globally. But they're also the 5th largest AI company. They also have a big cloud computing segment through Ali Cloud. They have an online payment side of things, similar to PayPal, in Alipay. So when you buy BABA, you diversify your portfolio in businesses throughout the whole of China. This is kind of similar to Dalio's first and second largest positions. Again, Investment 7, it's an emerging markets ETF, but this one is through iShares, not Vanguard. Dalio, he likes to diversify not only through businesses, but his investment operators as well. Investment 7 is a low-cost way of owning businesses throughout China, Taiwan, Korea, Russia, Thailand, and a range of other growing nations. Investment 8 is a low-cost way of owning big businesses throughout the USA. So number 7 accounts for 2.9% of Bridgewater's overall portfolio with a value of $334 million. Number 8 is worth 2.6% of the portfolio, worth $301 million. At number 9, Dalio owns even more gold. Did I mention how much he likes gold? The iShares Gold Trust accounts for 2.4% of his portfolio, valued at $280.7 million. As Dalio says, I believe it will be both risk reducing and return enhancing to consider adding gold to one's portfolio. Dalio, he owns a fair amount of it. His 10th largest position, bit of a weird name for a company I know, Pinduoduo. Pinduoduo is the largest agriculture-focused technology platform in China. Basically, it connects the farmers with the consumers. It's pretty big, it has 731 million users. And it's the 10th biggest position for Dalio. Ticker symbol PDD accounts for 2.2% of his portfolio with a value of $253 million. Now, for those who don't know, Dalio owns 599 different stocks in total at his portfolio over at Bridgewater. That and bit of the portfolio is filled with just tiny different investments. Not even worth mentioning since they each make up such a small percentage of the overall portfolio. What we will do, however, is point out the main ones that Dalio owns, the ones that I believe are the most important. Then we'll finish with a quick summary of his portfolio and see how it all balances out. Coming in at his 11th largest position is a company that Warren Buffett is also a big fan of, and that's Coca-Cola. This makes up 2.15% of the portfolio and is starting to give nice exposure to the consumer staple sector. His 13th largest position is Coca-Cola's cousin, Pepsi, and that makes up 1.9% of the portfolio. His 15th and 16th positions is also consumer related. Costco, one of Charlie Munger's big positions, and McDonald's comes in at 1.6 and 1.4% of the portfolio respectively. Then 17th to 20th positions are all ETFs and bonds. These include more ETFs in China and developing markets, as well as throughout Europe and Australia. Altogether, they make up around 6% of the portfolio. His 21st largest position, making up 1.3% of the portfolio, is a Chinese company called JD.com. JD is Alibaba's main competitor in China and invests heavily in technology and AI to deliver products through drones and robots. They currently have the largest drone delivery system in the world. So one of the things that I really want you guys to note down about Dalio's portfolio is truly how much he diversifies. You saw earlier on the amount of ETFs that Dalio owns. They make up big positions throughout his portfolio. ETFs, if you recall, means you own a whole bunch of different companies in a particular sector. And when Dalio chooses individual stocks, he tends to not just pick one in a particular area, he picks a bunch. For example, in soft drinks, he owns both Coca-Cola and Pepsi. In Chinese e-commerce, he owns both major players, Alibaba and JD.com. In pharmaceuticals, he owns both J&J and Abbott Laboratories. This is a different investing style compared to the likes of Warren Buffett, who will stick with an individual stock in a sector. Dalio, I call him the king of diversification, and you can see that here with his portfolio. As he says, the most important thing that you can have is a good strategic asset allocation mix. So what the investor needs to do is have a balanced, structured portfolio, a portfolio that does well in different environments. And that's what Dalio has gone and built with his investing firm at Bridgewater. Just looking throughout the rest of his portfolio, he owns Starbucks in consumer discretionary. That's 1.1% of his portfolio. He owns Baidu. That's Chinese communications. 0.94% of the portfolio. He owns Abbott Laboratories. That's in healthcare. 0.87% of the portfolio. The more you go through the portfolio, the more stocks you can see he's diversified throughout. So what I've looked to do in this video is show you the most important investments that he owns, and the rest of the ones are very, very small positions of the total portfolio. On average, way less than 1% each. So there you have it. That's what Dalio currently invests in. He's not afraid one bit to hold both stocks and ETFs in countries around the world. Predominantly, his investments are in the USA, but also in China and a range of other emerging markets.